Tav Ayin Dalet Amid Beis will begin Ayin Dalet Amid Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. We previously saw machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav said that the mova is only nittul b'lechi v'kaira. We don't treat it like a chotzer that needs a pas dalet. We make a kula that it's nittul b'lechi v'kaira, only if it has batim v'chatzeres psuchim l'seicha. Only if it has 2 chatzeres, with each chotzer at least 2 houses open to the chotzer, and those 2 chotzers are open to, or those 2 chatzeres are open to the mavoi. So it has to have, the mavoi has to have at least 2 chatzeres opening into it, and each chotzer has to have at least 2 houses. Shmuel said, no. Shmuel said, afilu bayis echad v'chotzer achas. He said, even if it's 1 house without a chotzer, and on the other side you have a chotzer with 1 house. You don't need 2 chatzeres with 2 batim. But Rabbi Elazar asked on that, we learned that be'eruvin l'shon mishnah seinu, and the lashon the mishnah is that it has to have batim v'chatzeres in the plural. So Ishtik Shmuel was quiet. He didn't answer. So question is, kibla minei or loy kibla minei? Did Shmuel accept the taina, the kasha of Rabbi Elazar? Did he retract from his position? Was he moided to Rav or not? Tal Shmuel, let's bring a raya. Dahu mavu, there was a certain movi Dovid dar by Ivis Bar'i. A person called Ivis Bar'i lived in that movi. Avad alei lachya. So the Shmuel made a lechi, he made a lechi rather for the movoi. He put up a lechi for it, v'shor le Shmuel, and Shmuel was matir. Shmuel said it was mutter. So it was treated and had a halacha as a movoi, and therefore was nifter with lechi. Now Shmuel was nifter, and after Shmuel was nifter, also Ravanan came and he threw down the lechi. He held that this did not have a din of a movui, that it could be nit with lechi v'kaira. It didn't have 2 chatzeres with 2 houses open into it. Therefore, he threw down the lechi. He said this movui is not nit with the lechi. So after he did this, Evil said, "A tiny came with the tiny amar mavua that Irina bay, a movui which I lived in. Va'asinu mishmei demar Shmuel, and it was the heter of it was made with the haskama of Shmuel. It was under the direction of Shmuel. And so it was done under Shmuel's authority. Naisi Ravanan Barav Nishadyamal, he should throw it away from us. So how could it be? This is done with the hechsher of Shmuel. How can he go ahead and now throw down the lechi and answer it for us? So what do you see from here? Shma mino lo kibla minei. Don't you see that Shmuel did not accept the taina of Rav Elazar? Shmuel was matir this movi, and as we'll see momentarily, this movi did not have 2 chatzeres and 2 batim psuchim l'seicha. Nevertheless, Shmuel was matir. After Shmuel was nifter, Ravanan came and threw it down. Ravanan held like Rav. It has to have 2 chatzeres and 2 batim. But don't you see that Shmuel himself was not chayzer, and he said that it's not required. So don't we see the Shema Mina loy kibel minei? He did not accept Rabbi Elazar's taina. Gemara says no, loy malach kibel minei. Really, I'll tell you, he did accept it. He did retract, and he held. He was chayzer, and he held. You have to have 2 batim and 2 chatzeres. And in fact, this movi had 2 batim and 2 chatzeres. How was that? Over here we're talking where there was a shamus that had a different house. He had his own house and a different chatzer. That's where he ate the meals, but he slept in the shul. As the Ritva explains the cases as follows. You had 1 chatzer with 2 houses in it. You had another chatzer that had a house and a shul. Now, really, I'll tell you, Shmuel hold, he retracted, he was chayzer and holds like Rav, you need shnei chazer, shnei batim. And over here, you had 2 chatzers and 2 batim. Well, how was that? One side, there was a chatzer with 2 houses. The other side, there was a chatzer with 1 house and a shul, where the shamas slept in the shul. So therefore, it was in effect a chatzer with 2 houses. So you had 2 chatzers and 2 batim. So the shamas ate in his own home, but he slept in the shul. Now, so what was the issue over here? So, however, sometime after the Shmuel was nifter, the shamas stopped sleeping in the shul. So he stopped sleeping in the shul. So therefore, Ravanan held you don't have two houses in the Chatzar. You only have one, because the Chazan was only the shamas was sleeping in the shul previously. That's why shul is matter. But he stopped sleeping in the shul. You don't have two houses in the Chatzar, and therefore it's not mutter with the lechi. So that's why he held, and therefore he took it down. He said it doesn't qualify anymore. The Ivus Bar Isavar, but Ivus Bar said no. That he thought that's not the pshat. He thought Makam Pisagarim. He thought that you never had two houses with two chatzeres, because what is koivei, what determines a person's residence, is where he eats. And the shamas ate it in his own home. He didn't eat in the shul. So therefore, when Shmuel was mater it would not have been on the basis of two chatzeres and two batim, because you never had two chatzeres and two batim, because he held the Malkam Pita's Gairim, and since he ate in his own home, you never had two houses in this chatzar, and yet Shmuel was matrid. Must be that Shmuel held you didn't need two chatzeres and two batim. But no, Shmuel tamei the Omar Malkam Lina Garim. But Ravanan held that's not the case. If Shmuel was fallen the tamei, Shmuel hold, as we saw previously, he held that the determining factor of a dira is not where you eat, it's where you sleep. And the Chazan, the shames, slept in the shul. So you did have a chaser with two houses. And on that basis, that's why Shmuel was materet. And it's only because he retracted, he was chayzer, he held you need two houses with two chaseres or two houses. Previously, in Shmuel's lifetime, that existed. But when the shamas stopped sleeping in the shul, it no longer existed, and therefore, it's not nitter with a lech anymore. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Mavli Shetzido Echad Ovid Kachavim. If you have a mavoi, one side is a chotzer where there's an ovid kachavim. So there's a mavoi, and a chotzer is open to it. On one side is an ovid kachavim, and on the other side is usida echad yisrael, and there's yidden on the other side. Now, the case is talking on the other side. There's only one chotzer that opens to the mavoi. But then there are a row of chatzeres. There are a row of chatzeres, chatzer. They all have windows that open, or openings that lead one to the other. So you have a chain of chatzeres, all of Yisrael, but only the one closest to the mavoi, only that one opens to the mavoi. The other ones open one to each other, and only the front one over here opens to the mavoi. On the other side is a chaser with an ovid kachavim, and that opens to the mavoi. So Rav said, "Ein ma'arva noisa derech haloinos lahatir derech psachim lamavoi." The chatzeres that are on the row over here cannot make an erev altogether to allow them to carry from one chaser to the other into the mavoi. We don't allow them to make that erev to bring it so that they can carry into the mavoi. So we'll see why that is so. Did he say if on the other, that between them is not a mavoi, that if there's a chotzer, so you have the same scenario, you have a chotzer with a ovid kachavim, there's a chotzer in the middle, and then you have the chatzerais on the other side, and the chain of chatzerais, one after the other, but only the one next to the chotzer opens into the chotzer. Did he say the same thing by a chotzer? And he said yes. The Eloi Omar Mai, because if he didn't, what would be the difference? How could you be mechalik between them? So they must be the same. Gemara says no. Abai says, Hava mina, time of the Rab, Mishum de Kasovar, Ein Movin de Tabula Pavikaira, Achu Batam Vatseres, Psuchim, Nasaich. I might have thought that what is the reason over here? Why do we not allow this? I might have thought that goes into what we were discussing earlier, that Rav said that to carry into a movi, that for a movi to be nitra with a lechi v'kaira, it has to have batim v'chatzeres. And therefore, if you have this case over here, you don't have batim v'chatzeres. you don't have batim v'chatzeres in this case, because in order to have it a nitter, you need batim v'chatzeres and two chatzeres. And on one side, you have an oivik kochavim, and that's not considered to be a valid chatzer. And on the other side, you only have a one Yisrael's chatzer. Now, even though they open one to each other, but opening into the mavoi is only one. So it's only one chatzer. So you don't have batim v'chatzeres psuchim l'seicha. Therefore, it's not niter belech v'kaira. Therefore, we do not allow them to be ma'arav to carry into the mavoi. So I would have thought that therefore, as it then specifically applies to a mavoi, but it would not apply to a chatzer. That's what I would have thought, and therefore I would have thought that by a chatzer should be muter. So that's why he has to say over here that tell you that no, that is not the case. But I could have had a havamina to differentiate. Well, Gemara says v'tarta lami. Lamali, if that's the case, if the reason for the isser over here is because you need batim chaser psuchim l'seicha, and that's why Rav aser, and based on that, you would have said that applies only to a movi and not by a chaser. You would have been machalik and say it doesn't by a chaser. Well, if that's the case, v'tarta lamali, why would Rav have to tell me twice the same basic halacha that a movi is not niter belach v'kara unless it's batim chaser psuchim l'seicha versus stricha? No, it would have been necessary. Because if you'd only told me that case, I would have said Dirshu v'chavim shmei dir. If it's only from the basic halacha that Rav said that achiyu batim chaser psuchim l'seicha, I might have thought, okay, that this case over here it would be valid because I might have said that the dira of an oivik chavim is shmei dira. We do consider it a dira. Now, as Taisus points out, even though we learned earlier that a dira of an oivik chacham is not considered to be a dira, it's not considered to be a dira as far as the Eruvin Chatzeres are concerned. But I might have thought that as far as this requirement that Rav says that a movi is not niter belech v'kara shebatim chaseres psuchim l'seicha, I might have thought it would be sufficient to satisfy this requirement. I might have thought, as far as this is concerned, the dir sevich chavim is a dir. Kamash malan, the dir sevich chavim lo shmei dir. So that's why he has to teach me that a dir sevich chavim is lo shmei dir. And if it's only from this case, lo yedina batim kama, I wouldn't have known. It doesn't say clearly how many batim you need. Now Rav's requirement is that the movi is not niter belach v'kara, actually batim v'chatzeres, two chatzeres with two batim in each. That's why he has to say that requirement. He has to say it there as well. So v'imahach lo yedina batim kama kamash malan batim trei. Has to teach you that it's two houses. So therefore, I might have said that really the reason why we do not allow this Arab over here to carry the movi is because of this basic requirement of Rav that a movi is not niter belach v'karachu batim v'chazeres psuchim l'seicha. And based on that, I would have been mechalek and differentiated and said it only applies to a movi and not to a chatzer. So he says, no, it's not that way. He said Rav would disallow it by a chatzer if it was a chatzer that was between the movi chavim one side and they had the chatzeres of the yidden one open to the other on the other side. Also by a chatzer, he would have said you cannot be ma'ar b'yachad. So hashta the Amar Rav afilu chatzer time of the Rav. So now that he said it applies to chatzer, that therefore the reason is not because achiyu batim chaseres psuchim l'seicha. So what is the reason that it's also time of the Rav? The kasavar also lastly is yachid b'makom oivik chavim. That the reason is it's also to facilitate a person living alone with an oivik chavim. We don't want a yid to live alone with an oivik chavim. And we don't want him to live alone with him because he might learn from the actions and the ways of the Oivik Chavim. Therefore, we make takonas that you cannot assist his living in this area. Therefore, we do not allow him to be ma'arav together. And therefore, the other chatzeres cannot carry both in the movi, they can't carry in the chatzer, so he will be the only one carrying in the Mavai with the Ovid Kachavim or with the Chatzar in the Ovid. They cannot carry there, so he'll be alone with them. He won't want to be alone with them, he'll be afraid to be alone with them, so therefore he will move out and he won't live together there. So in order to, not to facilitate his dira with an Ovid Kachavim, we say you cannot make this Eruv. Amar Rav Yosef Ihachi, I heard the Shaman Alei, Rav Tavla Dam Rav Kachavim, Avikam Trei Zimna. I heard that he said twice Avikachavim, but Layadana Mike Hammer. I didn't know what he was saying, but now that you're telling me that it means that there's an Isser, whether there's an Avikachavim on the one side of the Mali and the Yisrael on the other side, or whether there's a chaser between them, the Isser applies in both cases. Now I understand why he said Avikachavim Trei Zimna. One for the case of the Mavi between them, one for the case of the Chatzar between them, then in both cases they cannot be Ma'arav Yachad.